And now live from an undisclosed location, somewhere deep in the heart of American flyover country, cold, chilly, snowy American flyover country. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian whistleblower, under the radar, but definitely over the top. And we're going over the top again today, talking about the Elohim, Genesis 1:1, 127, Majestic Serpents, Genesis 2, non-spirited entities, E.T. Elohim. I just got out of the lake, and I didn't have time to make myself presentable hair-wise, so I mistimed my plunge. But I did videotape it. I'm trying to show you what it looks like to be under a frozen lake, and I hope that we caught the ice singing while I was under there. But for some reason, a tiny bit chilly today. It was super windy, and I didn't, like I said, I mistimed it, so I had to throw on the hat. But this will definitely be a note-taking show, Charla E, without a doubt. So just coming out of the ice, having my thoughts crystallized. Let me see what I did with that. I hope you saw the program we just did about addiction, loving addicts, and addicts in love. You won't like it, but it'll help you. Make sure you check that out afterwards. Tonight, Consequential Rapscallions with Scotty Roberts. What we're going to look at in our second part of our Psalm 82, and you'll want to go back to the Psalm 82 video, which will be linked at the end of this one. And I'll try to remember to put it in the box below. I don't always do that, but it will be linked at the end of this video. There's gods here, different gods, and there's also different classes, ladies and gentlemen, of people. And we're going to look at those classes of people today, and we're going to try to figure out who's here. And once we figure out who's here, we can find out who we are, and we can find out what we, ladies and gentlemen, need to do with our presence here on this planet. And it's pretty amazing when you start to look at this. It's pretty amazing when you start to ponder this. It's pretty amazing when you start to think about the enormity of what's going on. And it's all hidden from us in legends and silliness and foolishness. But we do our best to bring it out to you and bring it out with as much clarity as is possible. So let's go ahead right now and jump in to our study today. And I'm going to go over here to the book of Genesis, because if we're talking about beginnings, we might as well start right at the beginning of it all, ladies and gentlemen. So let's start with the first class of beings on this earth. Or we're not sure if they are on this earth, but we're asking. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. We know that this word is Elohim, gods and goddesses, more than one, plural. I've proved it 1,000 times. I'm not going to take the time for that right now. You can prove it yourself. In the beginning, the Elohim created the heaven and the earth. So if they created the heaven and the earth, that means they were not from this heaven and this earth. So there was this class of creator beings right here. Now, was this the ultimate being? I tend to think not. I think this is another class of creator beings that came here from someplace else and created this heavens and this earth. I would call them extraterrestrial Elohim. Why? Because they're not from this heaven. They're not from this earth. How do we know? Because they came from somewhere else and created this place that we are right here, right now. How about that? Tracy says not source. I agree with that. So they came, they created. The question is, did some of them hang around? Are some of them still here? Are some of them still here doing God stuff? I don't know, but it's something worth pondering. But we're really talking about the classes of man. So let's move on to that. So in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, and there's a class of man right there. Well, Jeff, I don't see that. Well, that's because you haven't been to the Christian whistleblower enough. Because watch this, ladies and gentlemen. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, darkness upon the face of the deep. This word was, and I can't prove this to you now, I'll prove it to you 1,000 times. You can do it on your own. Every other place in the Bible, it's translated became. In the beginning, the gods created the heavens and the earth became without form and void. It became without form and void. Isaiah 53, look it up, says the earth was not created without form and void. So if it wasn't created without form and void, and it is without form and void, in Genesis chapter 2, how do you explain it? Well, you explain it by correctly rendering this word as became. And then there's this little guy named Jeremiah. He was a prophet. And Jeremiah says, look, cousin, I looked at the earth and yo, I know it says low, but I like to say yo. I looked at the earth and yo, it was without form and void. Whoa, that's the only other place in the Bible that the earth is talked about as being without form and void. Because that's the only other place in the Bible that's talking about this time with this specific, that in Isaiah that we already talked about. It was without form and void. Dude, Jeremiah looked at it and said it was without form and void. Okay, Jeff, so what's the big deal? Watch. In the heavens, they had no light. Well, if they had no light and there wasn't any light, it wouldn't be remarkable. So you know that Genesis 1, 3, and God said, let there be light. That's further proof, ladies and gentlemen, that this is a recreation after a destruction, as the word was shows us, because Jeremiah says in Genesis 1:1, the gods created the heaven and the earth, and they created it with light, because Jeremiah was surprised that there was no light. But watch this. Jeremiah was also surprised because what? Yo, there was no man, and all the birds of the heaven were fled. Cousins, are you serious? In the beginning, the earth became without form and void. Jeremiah says, I saw it. It had become without form and void. Jeremiah says it wasn't created without form and void. And the heavens, they had no light. And there was no men. Well, Jeff, that's a Hebrew idiom that means something other than men. Oh, really? Means something other than men. Huh. Well, that's funny because it's the same word that we're going to see throughout Genesis for man. Ha-adama. Wow. So Jeremiah says, wait a second. I looked, the earth was without form and void, and there was no men. How did it happen, Jeff? The fruitful place was a wilderness. The cities, not only were there men, cousins, there were cities. What happened? They were broken down at the presence of the Lord and his fierce anger. Yahweh threw a temper tantrum and destroyed the Genesis 1:1 earth. All that to say this, that there was a Genesis 1:1 man. There was a creation of man in Genesis 1:1. Right here is a creation of man. There's man, there's woman, there's mankind here. There's Ha-Adama. So we got the Elohim. We got the Ha-Adama. And this next one, this next one's going to blow your mind. Then there was another hominid species created in verse number 20. And I'm going to let you, no, it's 21. I'm going to let you, and God created great whales. You look that up, ladies and gentlemen. Great whales means majestic serpents. Every other place in Scripture, that word means serpent. Every other place in Scripture, that word means majestic. Same word, and if you don't believe me, same word as when Pharaoh's magicians threw down their rods and they became what? Serpents. If you believe they became whales, you got some splaining to do. I wrote a whole book about this. It's called Serpents and Doves in the Garden of the Gods. Ooh, and I forgot to put my bookstore back up, but I will. So here are the majestic serpents, an upright hominid form of reptilian hominids. They were reptilian people. So you got the Elohim, you got the Ha-Adama, the Genesis 1 man, you've got your majestic serpents. And then down here, you got your Genesis 1:27 man. So God created man, same exact word. I'll show it to you just so you believe me. God created man, same exact word. Genesis 1:27. God created man, Adam, Ha-Adama. So you got man in Genesis 1:1. You got majestic serpent in Genesis 1:21. You got more man in Genesis 1:27. And then over here in Genesis chapter 2, well, over here in Genesis chapter 2, verse number 7, guess what? You got another man. You got another man, and it's very misleadingly the same word because it's not even the same type of a creature, because this one had no life in it until another living spirit was trapped in it. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Whatever this man is of Genesis 2:7, that's another kind of man. So what do we got so far? We got Genesis 1:1 man. We got Genesis 1:21, majestic serpents, a hominid. We got Genesis 1:27, man, an upright hominid. We got Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, man. We got Elohim. And then we got what I call, and don't have a scripture for it, but non-spirited entities. We have entities here, which I believe are more of these God created out of the Yaldabaoth, called the Lord, created out of the dust of the earth. And somehow over the ages, he learned how to make him into golem, where they can walk around and locomote and move and have being without. Jenny Moonstone asking what I'm doing tomorrow. I'd smell a show with Jenny Moonstone. That would be exciting, wouldn't it? Very nice. We'll have to see what Jenny Moonstone says. Ooh, let me just take. Oh, I don't want to show you my stop share. Did I stop sharing time? I did. What did Jenny say? Jenny said, what are you doing tomorrow? Do you want to do a live show? I'm going to say, I'm live right now. I'm live right now. And yes, text me. Text me details or give them here. All right. So looks like a live show with Jenny Moonstone tomorrow. Is everybody excited? You should be. That'll be fun. That'll be interesting. That'll be cool. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that excitement out of the way, all of these classes of beings, ladies and gentlemen, all of these classes of beings, you thought that it was just us and maybe some demons or something. So what do we make of this? What do we make of this? I'm not completely sure what we make of this, to be totally frank with you. I'm not completely sure what we make of this. We've got the Elohim that showed up, E.T. Elohim, from another place. And are there another set of Elohim that came here with them to do the work that are still around too? Is there ET Elohim, and are there indigenous Elohim? Are there ET Elohim and indigenous Elohim? These are the things I'm thinking about. And who are the Genesis 1:1 Ha'adama? Who are the Genesis 1:1 people? And I know that Yaldabaoth, the Lord, wants you to believe that when he destroyed the earth between Genesis 1:1 and 1:2, that he killed everybody. Well, number one, he's a braggart. Number two, he's a liar. And number three, it's hard to kill everything. So not everybody was killed. Not all of those men from Genesis 1:1 were killed. Are they still here? Are they still here? I say, yes, they are still here. Are some of them us? I say, yes. Some of them are us. Some of us are them. And then you've got the Genesis 1:26-27 man, created in spirit, not a physical man, created in spirit with the ability to manifest in flesh, not fully fleshed out yet, but the ability was there. Are some of them still here? Absolutely, I'm convinced. Are a lot of us them? Absolutely, I'm convinced. Those of us that aren't indigenous Elohim, those of us that aren't Genesis 1:1 man, we're probably, most of us, Genesis 1:27 men. And then there are some of us that are Genesis 2:7 men. We are. And that's a lower form. It's not a innately spiritual form. It's an innately physical form. And then you have the non-spirited entities, non-spirited entities. Wow. And there might be some of those watching us as well. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 classes of man on earth. And it's funny because the book of Revelation talks about 6 is the number of man. Biblically speaking, 6 is the number of man. Watch this. So is it a hidden lesson for us? Look at this. And this is not even from me. So, I don't usually call on Bible scholars very much, or Bible scholar stuff, but watch this. The meaning of numbers, the number 6, and this is from BibleStudy.org. Am I sharing? Yeah. The meaning of numbers from BibleStudy.org. In the Bible, the number 6 symbolizes man and human weakness, the evils of Satan, the manifestation of sin. Man was created on the 6th day. Men are appointed 6 days to labor. A Hebrew slave was served 6 years, released in the 7 years. 6 years for the land to be sown and harvested. The number 6 is also associated with the temptation of Jesus. Number 6 is the biblical number of man and human weakness. And it appears from a simple study of the scriptures themselves that we've got 6 iterations of man on the planet Earth. I find that fascinating. I find that really interesting. And I find myself asking, which class of man am I from? And I could also see people saying, well, what if I'm from that non-spirited entity class? Am I screwed? What if I'm from that Genesis 2:7 dust of the earth class? Am I screwed? And what does it say? That the sins of the father will be passed down. How many generations does it say? Sins passed to the what generation? Sins are passed down to the third and fourth generations. Sins are passed down to the fourth generation. That would cover everybody. Say Genesis 1:1. Let's say Genesis 1:1 was the first iteration of man. That covers everybody else. The majestic serpents, the 127s, the ha-adamas, and the non-spirited entities. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. Lies about sin being passed down, but truths about 4 subsequent generations of humans. Wow, that's very, very interesting, ladies and gentlemen. But to touch on the subject of whether or not you're screwed if you're Genesis 2:7, if you're screwed if you're non-sentient or non-spirited entity, let me call your attention to what I think is one of the most hopeful verses within the entire scriptures, ladies and gentlemen. And I want you to see this because I don't want you to despair. Watch this. There is a light, and he's called the Word, and he was one of the Elohims in the beginning, as you find out right here at the beginning of John chapter 1, which lighteth, and this word means enlightens every man that comes into the world. Let's watch that. Let's look at that. Let's take a look at that, I said. All right. There is a light that gives light to. What does that word mean? Shines, gives light to, illuminates, brings to light, makes evident, reveals, enlightens. Who gets enlightened, ladies and gentlemen? Every. How many is every? All, every, the whole. Oh, you look at that. Every kind of. Every kind of. Every kind of what? Every kind of man. Every kind of anthropos. Every time of upright hominid. Genesis 1, Genesis 1:21, majestic serpent. Genesis 1:27, Adama. Genesis 1:27, Adama. Non-spirited entities, every single kind. Look at that, folks. There's more than one kind, not just from my crazy brain, but there's more than one kind. And every one of them, ladies and gentlemen, that comes into, what does this word mean, coming into? Everyone that shows up, everyone that comes into, everyone that comes or goes from this dimension. Well, there's beings coming and going. Yes, there are. And every one of them that comes and goes, guess what? Everyone that comes or goes into or out of this, what? This world. What is this world? This order, this universe, this cosmos, ladies and gentlemen, this ordered system. Wow. So every single type of man, however many there are, that comes into this ordered system gets the enlightenment of the Word, who was God, who is God, who was there at the beginning when everything was created. He's one of those original Elohims. In the beginning, he was the Word. The Word was with God. The Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Nothing was made that was made without him. And he makes sure, ladies and gentlemen, that no matter what type of an entity you are, I don't care if you're AI. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I said it. AI beings will have the opportunity to accept the message of the Christ, and some of them will, because it makes the most sense. So guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Right now, it doesn't really matter which class you're from. It doesn't really matter if you're a non-spirited entity. It doesn't really matter if you're an artificial intelligence. It doesn't really matter if you're a walk in, a walk out, a walk up, a walk down, a get up, a fall down. If you're in this cosmos, cousin, you have been given the message of enlightenment, and you can respond to that message of enlightenment and accept it and live the life that is more abundant, walk the ways and truths that lead to life, and live in peace that passes all understanding. Even if you're a non-spirited entity, even if you're an artificial intelligence. Why? Because John said, not Jeff said, every type of being that comes into this cosmos gets a shot. We'll talk more about which one you are. Are you Elohim? Are you Genesis 1:1, man? Are you Genesis 1:21, majestic serpent? Ooh, we didn't even talk about those guys. There might be some majestic serpents watching me right now. And guess what? Jesus knew how to change his form so they could change their form. Jesus knew how to glamour his appearance. They could glamour their appearance because they were created before even the man created in the image of the Elohim. And if they were created before the man created in the image of the Elohim, logic would say those majestic serpents were created in the image of the Elohim. How about that? How about that, ladies and gentlemen? Do we have majestic serpents walking amongst us? Are you Genesis 1:27 man? Are you Genesis 2:7 man? Are you non-spirited entity? Are you artificial intelligence? Wow. Fascinating. Interesting. Powerful. How about that, ladies and gentlemen? Who was it that's saying, who are you? I really want to know. But it doesn't really matter in the end because we've all got access to the highest stuff on the highest shelf. We're going to talk more about this. We'll get into this more and more. We'll get into this deeper and deeper. And we will find out more about who we are. We'll find out more about which ones we are. And we'll find out more of what it means. And if it means anything really. And we didn't even talk about the different types of tulpae there are. That's more than one tulpa. We didn't talk about the types of tulpae, the types of thought forms. We didn't talk about if there's just spirit entities, disembodied spirits. Cousin, this place is crowded. This place is crowded. And there's a lot of entities that have access to a very glorious future. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian whistleblower. This has been a rather enlightening little experience here. Let me make a quick little pass through the chat room and see if there's something that I want to talk with, something I want to call my attention to. I love how people throw stuff in that's just craziness. I think there is no mark of the beast. The mark of the beast in the Bible just means money. If you got any money in your pocket, you got the mark of the beast. Don't get excited. It's not a big word. It's not a big deal. Do you think they were like the reptilian form? No, I don't. They were the reptilian. Yeah, they were reptilians because it says they were reptilians. The number of man. Yeah, I hear that all the time. James, I thought reptilian. Brother. Do you take science and physics to be literal? When it's proper to take it to be literal, yeah. The rat bastard marked us in meat suits. Yes, he did. No, it's not Aquaman. It's a majestic serpent is the literal rendering, but that's a good thought. Non-spirited entities are frightening. It can be frightening. We're all born knowing. Probably. I must be something interesting because I can see spirits. That's interesting, infinite life. That's very interesting. Very interesting. Let's not bring fear in if we can help it. And if you had a mirror you thought you had to cover, why don't you just get rid of the damn thing? I don't get it. Maybe we're the last because they love us so much. Could be. Yari says that there's 6 breeds of the gods. Ooh. I like that, Yari. If you get a chance, Gotham LTD or newcosmicknowledge@gmail.com. Send me some more information on that. Very, very interesting. I cannot live in that fear. Enlightenment needs to be earned. We just accept it. We just accept it. Nothing to fear since the spark of the divine is in us. I like that, Lori. I like it. Excellent stuff. Great balls of fire. What does that mean? If you don't understand, everything's part of the creation. Vibration, vibration, vibration. Really good stuff. Excellent comments. We could be in a simulator. Hi, Warrior Queen. Maybe this is the original purpose. Could be. I've always pondered this. Good. You're a deep thinker. I like your sparkling backdrop. Thanks. Once had a dream of 6 men on stage. That's interesting. Is there an ascension process? I don't know. What am I? I am a friend. Truth lies within all. Answers can be found. The matrix is a real thing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've asked some good questions here today. And I'll leave you to answer them for yourself. I'll leave you to answer them for yourself. But remember, in the end, it doesn't matter what class you are at the end, as long as you decide that you want to accept the message of the Christ and walk those paths, live that life abundant, and get out of this place and get returned to the realm of the Father. And you have the kingdom of God in you. The spark of divinity is in you. And if it's not, you can be given it. Not because Jeff says so, because John says so, ladies and gentlemen. 6 classes of man. And what if he didn't say it's 666? He just said it's 6, 6, 6. Wake up. Just as acceptable rendering. That verse really relates to money, though, so I'm just trying to put some truth in their error. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. I feel all warmed up now. I think I'll go have some lunch and get ready for the consequential rapscallions tonight. Get ready for more podcast excellence between now and then. And I'll get back with Jenny Moonstone and find out when we're going to be live. That sounds like a good time will be had by all. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian whistleblower, leading you to water, hoping you'll drink, bringing you to objective truth, hoping you'll think, ask questions, question answers, be your own guru, guide your own spirit, master your own ascension, because at the end of the day, only you can unindoctrinate yourself.